The recent missile strikes by Iran on Israel represent a dangerous escalation. This is not just about a single incident. It's about decades of mistrust and animosity. To understand the current situation, we must delve into the historical context. Iran and Israel have been locked in a shadow war for years. Both nations view the other as an existential threat. Iran's nuclear ambitions are a major point of contention. This dangerous dynamic is fueling the current crisis. Recent missile strikes have exposed deep divisions within Iran's government and society. Hardliners, linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, push for a confrontational stance towards Israel. They see Israel as an illegitimate threat to Islam. Moderates prefer a pragmatic approach, wary of direct confrontation. They advocate for diplomacy and focus on domestic issues. Hardliners seem to be gaining the upper hand, supported by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Their dominance increases the likelihood of further escalation. The international community has reacted with alarm to the recent escalation between Iran and Israel. The United States, a staunch ally of Israel, has condemned Iran's actions and called for de-escalation. European powers have expressed similar concerns and urged restraint from both sides. However, the international community's leverage over Iran is limited. Years of sanctions and diplomatic isolation have bred mistrust and resentment in Tehran. Iran's leaders view the West, particularly the United States, with suspicion and are unlikely to heed their calls for restraint. Moreover, the international community is divided on how to address the situation. Some countries, like Russia and China, have closer ties to Iran and are reluctant to alienate Tehran. This lack of unity hampers efforts to forge a coordinated international response. The international community must find a way to speak with one voice and present a united front. This will require bridging differences and finding common ground on how to address Iran's actions. Failure to do so risks emboldening Tehran and further destabilizing the region. The shadow of history, past conflicts, and future implications. The crisis between Iran and Israel is deeply intertwined with the broader history of the Middle East. Decades of conflict and mistrust loom large over the present. Iran's leaders view the situation through their own history, recalling the Iran-Iraq War. They see themselves as victims of Western interference. Israel, too, carries the weight of history, shaped by the Holocaust. They view Iran's nuclear ambitions as an existential threat. These historical narratives make finding a peaceful resolution challenging. Section 5. The Proxy War Dilemma. Fueling regional instability. The conflict between Iran and Israel is not confined to their own borders. It spills over into neighboring countries, fueling proxy wars and regional instability. Iran has long supported militant groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, using them as instruments to project power and pressure Israel. These proxy groups have their own agendas and interests, often independent of Tehran's control. Their actions, while intended to serve Iran's strategic objectives, can sometimes backfire and lead to unintended escalation. The recent missile strikes are a case in point. Israel, too, engages in its own form of proxy warfare, supporting groups opposed to Iranian influence in Syria and elsewhere. This tit-for-tat dynamic creates a dangerous cycle of violence and instability, with no clear end in sight. The international community must recognize the destabilizing impact of these proxy wars. Efforts to address the Iran-Israel conflict must include measures to curb the activities of these armed groups and prevent them from dragging the region into a wider war. Section 6. The quest for diplomacy, avenues for de-escalation. Despite the current heightened tensions, diplomacy remains the only viable path to resolving the conflict between Iran and Israel. While the prospects for direct negotiations seem dim at present, there are still avenues for communication and de-escalation. Back channels involving intermediaries and regional actors could play a crucial role in facilitating dialogue. Oman, for instance, has a history of mediating between Iran and the West, and could potentially play a similar role in this crisis. Confidence-building measures, such as prisoner exchanges or agreements on maritime security, could help to reduce tensions and create a more conducive environment for talks. These small steps, while insufficient on their own, can help to build trust and pave the way for more substantive negotiations. The international community must encourage and support these diplomatic efforts. Sanctions relief, contingent on Iran's willingness to engage in good faith negotiations, could provide a powerful incentive for Tehran to choose the path of diplomacy over confrontation. Section 7. Charting a path forward towards a lasting peace. The road to peace between Iran and Israel will be long and arduous. It will require patience, perseverance, and a willingness to compromise from all sides. The international community has a crucial role to play in supporting this process. First and foremost, the international community must send a clear and unambiguous message to both Iran and Israel that further escalation is unacceptable. The costs of a wider conflict would be catastrophic, not just for the region, but for the entire world. Second, the international community must work to address the underlying issues fueling the conflict. This includes addressing Iran's legitimate security concerns, finding a solution to the Palestinian issue, and creating a regional security architecture that ensures the security of all states. Finally, the international community must be prepared to engage with Iran in a constructive and respectful manner. Diplomacy, not military force, is the only way to achieve a lasting peace. The time for dialogue is now, before it's too late.